Hi guys, here I am at the house with our inspector Chris, and he's going to do an overview of the inspection.
All right, hi, how you doing? Um, so overall, we're dealing with a home from the early '60s, so it has some age, but overall, it's pretty much in good shape. It's mainly just wear and tear items that I have concerns with. Um, there's really nothing structural that stands out as a major concern, but we'll bring up a few points here or there. So just starting in the kitchen, I did notice that the dishwasher is mounted by these two brackets at the top, but one of the brackets here has a strip screw. So I've re-secure it so it keeps the dishwasher from kind of sliding back and forth when you open and close the lid. You do have a sink sprayer. I did notice that when I engaged the sprayer, I still had a good amount of water flow from the faucet. That just tells me the sprayer is going bad. So you might replace that at some point so you have full flow when you use the sprayer feature. Now there is an ventilator above the range top here, and it was connected to a duct to the exterior at some point, but it is no longer. It's now a recirculating unit. So it pulls air from underneath the unit and then dumps it out the top. So if you want to have it where it exhausts the air to the exterior, well, you're going to have to kind of reconnect everything and then make sure there's an exterior hood, which I did not see. There is a junction box, an electrical junction box under this oven here, and there's a little knockout missing. That's what this is right here. That just needs to be covered in case there's something that caused the wires to start sparking or arcing. It keeps any sparks from jumping out the box, so it just needs to be sealed. Now the hot water did come in at 145 degrees, which is a little toasty. Typical residential is between 120 to 130. Really 140 and up is considered a scald hazard, so I would recommend backing off the temperature. Now, anytime I'm around a water feature, I always have the cabinet doors open with the water running. Doesn't matter if I'm in kitchens, bathrooms, laundry sinks, wherever. I'm just documenting at that time of inspection, that small snapshot in time that I'm here, that there were no leaks. So everything looks fine under the sink. Both sides look good. Looks like a good portion of the plumbing has been updated to modern PEX and PVC drainage, which is nice to have. I did also notice that the front faucet is missing that kind of screw-on aerator with the screen, which is what that is, and that's what kind of keeps a nice even stream of water. So you might want to get an aerator that can screw on or a faucet replacement. That just shows you that the electric range fired right up, so there's no problems there. Just keep an eye on this oven. It's starting to show its age. It works and maintains a proper temperature, but it does kind of make like when the little fan spin, cooling fan spinning, it kind of makes a squeaking sound sometimes. But it's still doing its job now. And the lid is looks like the spring is kind of missing, so it wants to kind of fall down a little bit heavier than it normally would. So just use caution when you use it. That's all. I do have one loose outlet in the house. It's to the outlet to the right of the sink. So if I plug something in, like my tester, and then I try to unplug it, it feels like the outlet kind of pulls out the wall with it. So definitely want to secure that. But hey, your oven does work. I did set it for 500 and hit 505. That's when a plus or minus 10 degree variance. So no oven really goes right to one specific temperature. So as long as it's within that ballpark, I'm satisfied. So it works. And that's that lid I was telling you about, how it kind of crashes open. A little bit of flooring damage between the laundry room and the kitchen. At this point, more considered cosmetic than anything, since it is far enough from any water source. Laundry itself looked fine. Drain box, no signs of unwanted movement or leakage. That's the left leg of the dryer outlet. That's the right leg. That just tells me both sides have power. Dryer's good to go. And I did turn on the dryer. It was spun and heated, so everything's fine in the laundry room. You do have a stove insert for the fireplace in the living room. As you can see, it doesn't look like it's been used in a while, but the damper did articulate, open and close like it should. So I would just clean all the debris out. And I did plug in, there's an extension cord, I plugged it in for a fan. You flip these little panel slides down to access these toggle switches, and the fan did engage for that more active heat. So everything looks good in there. I did notice there are several outlets throughout the home, several in the living room and here in the dining room. And I'll make sure these pictures have arrows pointing at them, but they had open grounds. That's typical for the age of the home. That just means that they most likely had original 2-prong outlet that they just replaced with a 3-prong modern outlet. So the outlet has power, but you have that bottom ground for, like, when you plug something in like a vacuum cleaner, you're just not going to have that grounding protection. So that would be considered an upgrade, not a requirement if they want to have the normal polarity. So, but everything else has been upgraded throughout the house. It's not these little areas back here.
Okay.
let's see, you got the driveway entry door, you have this back dining room deck door, and a couple things. One is, I noticed when I close the doors, you can kind of see some visible daylight. You can even see it at the top of the door. It just needs to be sealed up a little bit better. You just don't want to air condition the neighborhood, you don't want bugs to get in, so definitely would tune up the weather stripping. I could not get this exterior, looks like a sodium bulb to come on, because it looks to be one of those photovoltaic cells, so it makes the light automatically come on at night and off at dawn. A lot of times they don't like to work during the day, so I just recommend have the sellers document, text, take a picture and text or email someone just saying, hey, the light works. I did see we're talking a very small, like the size of a dime, size of wood damage at the driveway entry door, at the bottom of the door jamb. As you can kind of see here, there's a little tiny screwdriver, it kind of sticks in. That just means when it's raining, someone opens the door, water hits the door, then they close the door and they're trapping that water. I would kind of scrape out the bad and put some kind of wood patch in, because over time that will start spreading if it's not taken care of. But it doesn't impede the function of the door now. And this is the back door, and there's that daylight again I was kind of telling you about. A little bit of daylight at the bottom corner of the door. And the door has a little chip on it. It's like someone kind of nicked into it. So you might put a little bit of paint, just because that is raw wood, and then it's at the bottom of the door. And raw wood and water are not friends, so I would definitely paint it at a minimum. And 1, 2, 3, these outlets here in the dining room, it's the same deal that I mentioned with those open grounds. So I'm just documenting which ones are showing me issues. There's a doorbell button, didn't do anything. I don't see an interior chime, the thing that goes ding dong, so there's no doorbell feature. Now there is a transformer for the doorbell, which is located in the attic, and I can show you where that is. If you ever wanted to add one, you could tie into it from there. This was steps to power down to 12 volts for like a doorbell. Or you could have like a wireless chime installed if you so much desire. I do take moisture readings at all 3 entry doors on the interior side of the jamb, and they're in the green. Green is a good dot. In other words, I'm making sure that if it's a wind-driven rain, water's being blown against the house, it's not being blown into the house. Because there's 2 ways water makes its way into a home. Either through a roof leak or the bottom corners of doors and windows. So I check the doors, make sure they're snug up. I check the window flashing, make sure they're good. So far, so good.
Awesome.
Now, I did notice that the front door is an old school hollow core door. It's not one of those solid doors that we'd find in modern construction. 2 things are highly inefficient. In other words, they kind of let your natural conditioned air kind of permeate outside, escape. And from a security or safety point of view, they're easy to break into. So it'd be considered an upgrade to put a normal solid door in. That's all. Not a requirement, just a suggestion. I did notice this light above my head. I can't get that one on. It's a little LED puck. So maybe I'm an idiot and I can't find the right combination of light switches, so I'll just say, hey, talk to the sellers. Maybe they know something I don't. Every other light I could get to come on, or it could actually be an issue with the light. This is also the front porch light, and it works. As you can see, the light's on, but the little glass insert's missing, which has caused, well, that's a bird's nest, so we don't want anything that could be flammable, like kindling, right next to an electrical socket. So either cover that or replace that. I would do one or the other. The filter box in the hallway looks good. The filter's getting a little dirty, so I definitely would replace it. It's 20 by 20, standard 1-inch filter. Several doors. You got this hallway closet door. There's a bathroom door. They don't grab the strike plate when you close them. So when you close the door, it goes click, it doesn't go click. So if this was like a bedroom door, you could open the door without turning the handle. That's all it is. So the plate needs to be lined up so the latch just engages. Simple adjustment. There's 2 bathrooms in the house, so this is the hallway guest bathroom. It is missing a drain stopper, so if you're one of those people that likes to fill up the sink basin, you got to put a stopper in. Also notice, I don't know if you can see, but when I left the water running, it would start slowly kind of backing up, so it's a little bit slow to drain. So since everything else drains fine, it just tells me it's isolated to this particular sink. Most likely a little bit of hairs in there, it just needs to be cleaned out. Backing up, that toilet is also loose. It kind of wobbles back and forth more than I like to see, so I definitely would secure that because you have that wax ring underneath. If that wax ring starts doing too much back and forth motion, you can lose that water seal, and then you have the wastewater going places you don't want it to go. So definitely would snug that up. But hey, the water's running, no leaks at the sink, so everything's good underneath. This shower arm, I would definitely secure that. It goes back and forth like this. It should never really move. That should be secured to the wall. The only thing that should move in the shower is the shower head, not the arm. What happens is people put the sprayer down or they adjust it. If they make that arm wobble back and forth too much, you eventually can spring a leak. And usually you spring a leak on the back side of the wall, which is the last place you want to spring a leak. No leaks now, so I would secure that so it doesn't turn to a problem in the future. And then I would add a little bit of caulking and just quarter mold trim at the base of the tub and floor. You can kind of see this little open gap right here. So if any water trickles down, I don't want it to go where it shouldn't go, like in the subfloor. There's a drain stopper handle, but it didn't do anything, so the drain stopper doesn't work. These are notorious for going bad, and they're a pain to fix. So you can always talk to a plumber and they can fix it, or you can just get yourself one of those little $3 rubber stoppers, slap it down, call it a day. So that's how you want to tackle that. Just keep an eye on the tub finish. You can see where some of the paint's starting to kind of chip away. It's just age. There's no leaks because there's a fiberglass tub, so you can always have it refinished if you really want to. If not, just keep an eye on it so they don't start opening up or cracking. This is the front center guest bedroom, and I can't fully close that door because it hits the jamb. So it has that friction when you try to close it, so it needs to be adjusted. Also notice that basically every bedroom is missing the doors. There's a missing door between the living room and the laundry room, and then closet doors in all the bedrooms. So that's just say if you want to add doors, add doors. If not, no big deal. And there we go right here. You can see where there used to be a door, but they've gotten rid of it. There is an access panel in the primary bedroom behind the doors. If I look in, so you can look at the back of the guest showers, what that is, the guest bathtub. But then there's an opening right here, and I can look into the basement. So I would cover that because that's an unconditioned space. So you can get that kind of crawl space and basement moisture, and now I don't want it to permeate into the living space. If you ever smell that kind of crawl space air, you don't want that funky air into the living space. So I would seal that gap. And you can go into the basement and just look straight up, you can't miss it. So that was the original closet, but there's no doors there now. So if I go into this addition, I guess they just turned to a big master closet. There's a light bulb that did not work in there. So again, you might just need a new bulb. Let's see, I would just do some caulking at the two vanities in the primary bathroom. There's little gaps there, no big deal, just caulking. No leaks at the left sink, no leaks at the right sink. Just be aware that the right sink, they've actually plumbed the hot and cold are reversed. So you got the little red dot for the hot side, but that's actually cold water. And then that side's hot water. So if you're cool with knowing which sink just does what, it's fine. If not, you need to kind of flip the hoses around underneath. I would caulk at where the tub enclosures. This is definitely a do-it-yourself kind of installation. But there's always some gaps so if you sit in the tub and water splashes out, it just prevents water from going where you don't want it to go. This is a non-traditional faucet. Again, it's a do-it-yourself, a hot and cold. They work, just don't lean on them. You'll snap them off. So, and then since we got the caulk gun now, go ahead and hit the shower as well, where this little ring is for the handle. You can see this big old gap right there. So any water that trickles down, I don't want it going behind into the wall. So caulk the shower handle. And then they put flooring, and they didn't quite snug the flooring up around the tub or toilet. So this is we're in front of the shower. You kind of see these gaps here. And then you have the gaps behind the toilet, which looks like that, where actually you can see the subfloor. So since you're in proximity to a shower here and a water source toilet here, I would cover those areas because you don't want water to make direct contact with the wood subfloor. The lock in the primary bathroom did not work. That handle just spins in place, so you can either have to repair or replace it if you want to lock the door. And then that same door into the primary bathroom rubs a jamb just like the bedroom did. So there's a little bit of friction when you close the door. That's what that is. Oh, let's see here. Here's the air conditioning side of the HVAC system. We call the Delta T. In other words, I compare the air that comes out of the unit versus what goes back into the return since it's on a loop. And I'm looking for approximately 15 to 20 degrees between the two temperatures just to give me an idea if it's accurately cooling, or do I need to further investigate? 51 degree air out, 69 back in. What is that, 18? So that's right where it needs to be as of today.
Okay.
The attic access is located above the washing machine in the laundry room. It's called a scuttle hole. It's one of those little panels you got to kind of push and slide. There's missing insulation on the attic side. There was insulation, but every time someone moves the panel, it slides off. So you need to do something. I would just get that styrofoam type insulation and glue or staple it to it, so anytime someone moves it, it doesn't keep sliding everywhere. because if I took the thermal camera when it's 98 degrees in July and I scanned that surface, it would radiate heat. It'd be glowing. So I found 3 improper wire splices. One's above the guest hallway adjacent to the guest bathroom, and 2 are above the front living room and rear living room. So this is the rear living room. This is the wire here. So if I zoom in, you see how they kind of tie the wires together with those wire nuts? You're not supposed to do that. I showed you a metal junction box that was under there. You need some of those. You don't have to get the metal ones. Just get those $4 plastic ones. And anytime you tie a wire, splice them together, you got to put them inside those boxes, because let's say something happens, that electrical tape starts peeling back because it's in a moist, hot environment. Well, then something could happen and those wires could start arcing back and forth. So got 3 of those. Everything else though, the bones look fine up top. Old school rafter, full coverage, loose fill fiberglass. The sheathing, that's what the shingles sit on, look fine. So that's what it looks like up top. So I had no problems going up above there. And then there's the front living room, and here we go again. There's my little wire splice. There was an attic fan right here next to, there's 2 chimneys, one on the left side of the house, one on the right side. And they've gotten rid of the attic fan, but you can see where they had the wires connected. So it's the same principle that those 2 wires need to be covered back up in case they become re-energized. And then here's my other wire splice right here, which is right across from the hallway light in the ceiling. So there's my 2 wires right there. Hey, and next to that splice, see this little transformer? That's that doorbell transformer I was telling you about. So if, for example, they had an electrician come in because they want to get a powered doorbell, electrician's gonna want to look for that, and that's where it's located. So.
Okay.
All right, so both bathrooms do have ventilator fans, but the hallway bathroom, well, you can see where the ventilator fan duct just kind of stops. It doesn't need to stop there. That needs to be extended to where it vents to the exterior of the house. You don't want to put that hot, moist shower air in your attic. That's how you get fungal growth and all kinds of fun stuff. So that needs to be extended, that's all. Let's go to the other end of the attic. I did see a history of a leak around the chimney. That's what the staining is, but there's no signs of active moisture or damage now. So if it was leaking, it's not showing a leak now, but I still want you to keep an eye on it, especially during the heavy rain, just to make sure that it doesn't open back up. But I did look at the flashing around the chimney and everything was fine.
Great. Because I think according to the disclosure, it was replaced in 2015. Yeah.
So that, and again, if a roofer goes up there and they see a stain, as long as the wood's not compromised, they'll just leave it alone. I just wish they put like a little post-it note for people like me. That was been taken care of. So coming back around, now someone did put a couple of these little planks just around the center. I guess to kind of walk on, but they're not secured to anything. So it's going to be like a Three Stooges. You're going to step on one end, that other end's going to come back and get you. So you might nail those down if you ever feel like going up and down the attic. So yeah, that's it on that. Hey, that's the heat. 125 degrees on a heat pump electric. Oh, that's good heat, and it was still climbing. Remember, I just made those ducts ice cold. So it takes time to get to the maximum operating temperature. I'm generally looking for about 115 on electric. So once I see that past either my minimum or past my minimum, I am satisfied. So both the heating and cooling are doing their jobs.
Awesome.
Now you do have this one gutter right here above the front porch, and it looks like it's kind of improperly sloped because the downspout's over here. But if I look at this gutter here, I can see it holding a little bit of water. So that side might need to be lifted up so water naturally travels this way. Because I'm just worried during a heavy rain it's going to overflow at this one spot. So there's the chimney in the living room. Well, there was a cap, and you can see that what was sitting on top of it is gone. And then you can see the crown's basically gone. That's that mortar on the top that's supposed to be rounded, so when water hits it, it rolls off the side. And since you don't have a top, well, this is your backup. And the crown's worn out with age. So I would definitely put either a rain cap and those little metal grate things that sit on top. So, because if they have like a wood burning fire, that's what kind of helps captures any sparks or ashes or embers. Like you don't want to catch your neighbor's trees on fire. Also prevents animals from coming down from the other side.
And that's the one that has the debris that you were saying.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why the debris is getting in, because it's wide open now.
Mm.
The roof itself, though, looks fine. I didn't have any issues. Just a couple nails need to caulk, but the shingles themselves look fine. Now, this is an architectural shingle, so depending on the manufacturer, it's a 25 to 30-year roof. So they got a long ways to go before they have any roof issues. Here's the other chimney. That's the one that I showed the leaking, the stains in the attic. And you can see it's all flush. This is what connects to the basement. There's a stove in the basement. So they really want to get that sucker going. The only thing I would do is put some kind of storm collar. That's that little metal thing, so when water hits, just it kind of rolls off like I mentioned earlier. Because you see all this little square? This used to be a wood burning chimney, but if I zoom in, you see the gaps? Where do you think the water's going to go? It's going to go where you don't want it to go. You want to seal those gaps all the way around. So if something slides on the pipe, and it's like that metal lip. So when water hits that edge, it's rolling it away from that. But yeah, there's that flashing detail, so I know it's not leaking now, but still keep an eye on it. That's just the rear of the roof. Looks great. Now this is that addition over there by the primary closet. So I have a row of nails right here. See those exposed nails right there? They just need to be caulked with roof caulking. It's this thick, goopy stuff. Since nails are metal with expansion and contraction properties, those nails want to raise up on you, and you'll be amazed how much water will go through a nail hole. So you just gotta put some caulking on top of those nails, call it a day. That's the only issues I had. Front looks good, brick looks good, a little bit of vinyl siding at the side, it looks fine. Might put some more mortar in here at the chimney because you can see a little bit of vegetation is growing out. That means water's getting in where it shouldn't go. For me, you do have these two vent wells, or foundation vents to the left of the front porch, and they do look to be a little bit too close to the soil. You generally want to have, let's say this is the ground here, you want to have a minimum of 3-inch gap, and then the bottom of the opening. If it sits too close to the ground in a really heavy rain, if water ponds along through here, well then that can turn to a drain and start allowing water into the crawl space. Now it was dry on the other side, but you know those little metal U-shaped wells? If they're not familiar, I'll put a diagram in my report showing you an example. I would get 2 of those from Home Depot or Lowe's and just put them there just to make sure water can't go where it shouldn't go. I do have a loose brick at the front porch stairs, you can see that, so you might want to glue that back together in case you step on it without paying attention and it kicks out from underneath you. And now, switch over your bathroom caulking to your exterior caulking and just hit the exterior doors around the perimeters, that's all. Kind of see where that's not really a great shot, but this is better. See those gaps right there? You see where caulking used to be, so you're just going to re-caulk it. Don't care about that. There's a little opening in the brick below the meter here, which looks like that, so I would try to cover that up a little bit better, make sure water doesn't try to get inside where it shouldn't go. I would also add some joist hangers or ledger strip. This is under that primary closet addition. You can see where the joists are toenailed from the side. You usually want to have something underneath it to keep that from slowly slide down over time, for example. So usually it's a little joist hanger or a piece of wood that goes underneath this as a bottom support. That's all. There's no signs of movement now. It's just to make sure there's nothing happening in the future. That's all that is. I would also ask about this because this looks like there might have been, it looks like there's some stairs here at some point. So I'm thinking this was a deck structure. And then they sit here and put on a wall and a roof on a deck structure. The posts themselves look good. Just want to make sure it wasn't a do-it-yourself type deal.
It was.
Oh.
Because they said all the additions and stuff that were done by the previous owner, and they bought it as a foreclosure. So, you know, they're not getting full disclosure on. So yeah, it wasn't permitted. Gotcha.
I don't see any signs of unwanted movement. If there's ever a concern structurally, you can always talk to a structural engineer. Because like I said, you're adding a weight load that might not be designed for the excessive weight they put on it. But again, I'm not seeing any type of movement. It's not trying to detach or anything. So it's really something I don't want them to bite them. Let's say they decide to sell the house in 5 years at their resale. I don't want someone to come behind them, another inspector, and say, hey, have you had this looked at? And you say no, and they say, well, I want you to bring an engineer out and look at it, so they can put their seal of approval on it. Condenser unit looked good from 2015. That's the heat pump. I had no issues with it, so other than the wash. Don't stick your hand under there without looking. But everything looked fine with it. It was nice and clean. Inside components looked good, so HVAC, good to go. You do have a little retaining wall here. It's leaning. You might want to repair that. It's hard to see because of vegetation, but if you go look at it, it's starting to kind of pull away a little bit. Rear looks good. Now this is also a do-it-yourself deck. You see these little posts right here? These are precast concrete blocks. Now technically you're not supposed to just dump a deck on top of a block. It's supposed to sit on top of a dug-out poured concrete footer. And if you put your footer on top of the soil, the top layer of soil holds moisture. So during the cold or winter months, if that moisture freezes, well, then it expands and get what's called soil heap. So then the soil can kind of do this up and down motion, and it can make your deck kind of do this. Has not showing any signs of doing that now. It's nice and flat like it should be. So I don't really make a big deal about that. I just want you to be aware of how it's supposed to be. Now there's a GFI outlet at the rear deck, and it did not reset, which tells me something's wrong with the outlet. So if you want to use that outlet, a powered outlet, you got to talk to an electrician, figure out why it's not working. Most likely they'll just put a new one in. There's also a hole in the soffit below that. And there's a wiring harness here, so I'm thinking they had like a floodlight or something installed at some point. But there's nothing there now, so if you're not going to use anything, cover the hole. Keeps those insects, like this wasp I just showed you, from going into the attic area. And then you have another vent well here. Just keep an eye on that one. Oh, we gotta jump to the next slide. There we go. That one's a little bit close too, but not as close as the other guys. Electrical panel, 200 amp service. This is an upgraded panel. So everything looks fine. Just be aware that not every single breaker is marked. So that would be considered an upgrade, knowing exactly where each one goes to. But electrically speaking, this is the interior of the panel. I have no problems with it whatsoever. There's even room for expansion right here. If they ever need to add circuits or 12, you got the room for it. So it's a good panel. There's some hairline cracking going on. I'm going to talk about this in a second. You got some cracks here at the front foundation wall. Those right here don't really bother me. That's just settling cracks. But I did see one up. There's a workbench at the front. And I'll show you here in a second. So you got a workbench here, and I didn't see them at first. By the way, there's your well equipment, part of it, and there's a handle right there. And that handle is the main water shutoff. So if you need to turn water off through the entire home, it's located in the basement right there. These are the ducts that kind of penetrate into the living room. You can see where the duct's insulated here, but then you got this exposed metal here. That's common for the age of the home, but in modern construction, every bit of this is insulated. Just so you don't lose some of your energy where you don't want it to go. And then during hot months, that cold air, if it meets that warm basement air, can start condensating or sweating. And you don't want anything to sweat next to wood. No signs of damage, but just let you know how it's supposed to be fully insulated. There's also no insulation between the floor joists. Again, typical for the age of the home. I see it all the time. So that would just be considered an upgrade, adding insulation under the house for that thermal barrier. There's a subsurface drain. That's where the basement dehumidifier dumps into. That's beyond my ability to tell you what goes beyond that. I don't know. In other words, I don't know where it goes, what it's connected to. The only way to know is to drop the camera into it. So this is the bench. So I noticed there's a crack here, and it kind of goes, there's a little bit of, it's got the vertical cracking, which I don't mind, but I see a little bit of horizontal or left to right cracking. So there's that vertical crack, but then you see how you got this little horizontal crack right here? You might want to have that looked at some point. Now the wall is not bowing, so I don't see anything pushing on the outside, because then that causes the wall to do that. But it's still a horizontal crack, so at a minimum it should be resealed. You can always have a professional come look at it to further analyze it, but like I said, I'm not seeing any type of movement now, but I just want to know what's going on. What would be causing this other than just typical settling? Either way, I would reseal some of these cracks. And there's another horizontal one here. So it's pretty much uniform and hairline. That's why I'm not making a big deal. It's when I start seeing bowing of the wall or really thick left to right cracking, I'm like, oh crap, something's going on. I'm not seeing that. That's the air handler / furnace unit. It's fine from 2015. Matches the outside condenser unit, so I have no problems with it. The only thing I would do is add a little bit of plumber's putty at this refrigerant line here. That's what connects to the outside unit, which is that. I don't want to see that exposed copper. It's the same deal about that sweating HVAC lines. Going to the house is the same deal. It just prevents it from sweating and dripping water around the basement. And something to think about, this is the primary condensate drain, which goes to that drain line that's built into the basement. But if I zoom in, there's this little red cap, and it's called the secondary. There's a reason the manufacturers have a secondary. Primary drain and secondary drain. If the primary ever became clogged, bugs get in there, or algae or slime builds up, then where's the water going to go? It's just going to back up into the unit and start dripping out the bottom and go places you don't want it to go. So we're starting to see the last 5 years or so in every new installation is that they add a float switch right here. So if the primary becomes clogged, the secondary kicks in, it hits the float switch, which turns the system off to say, hey, something's going on, come take a look at me. So while not necessarily a requirement, just a suggestion. And I'll put a diagram also in my report showing you what that kind of float switch looks like as an example. All right, so you can see where they've added modern PEX, but then you see old school cast iron. I don't see any issue with the cast iron today, but I highly recommend having a plumber come out and doing what's called a sewer scope inspection. That's where they do drop the camera into the line. Because I don't know where this goes beyond that, and if there's something going on with the cast iron that I can't see, at least the camera lets you know what's going on, because it has a tendency to rust from the inside out. So I've had people in the past that we recommended get these, and they didn't get it, and 3 months after they moved in, water starts backing up into the house. Then they have someone come out and say, oh yeah, well part of your line collapsed, so now we have to rebuild it for $10,000. So just a suggestion, highly recommended. You do have this one joist, they've cut the joist, as you can see here, to make room for a drain line. You're not really supposed to cut a joist without adding another one to the left or right to support that piece you cut out. At the same time, this has probably been like this the whole time, and I don't see any issues or movement associated, so it wouldn't hurt to put it on a piece of wood just for added support. If not, just keep an eye on it. Water heater, well, it's there. It's old school. I can see there's a history of leaks on it. History of leaks. There's no leaks now. But this guy is from 1992, so it's still working. And then there's the stove that goes to that chimney I mentioned needs to be sealed. That's just what it looks like. So make that basement nice and toasty. This is under the hallway bathroom. I would just kind of cover that up a little bit, because any critters or rodents that do get into the unconditioned basement, if they sense the warmth up above, they'll climb up the pipe and nest under the tub. So I would definitely cover that. This is the crawl space. You have two crawl spaces. You have one under this little addition for the bathroom, and then you have this main area. Crawl space itself looks fine. You got a full coverage moisture barrier. The floor framing looked good. Now you do have a junction box right smack in the middle, and that needs to have that little 25-cent cover to plate. That's all it's missing. Moisture levels are great. This is the wood moisture, not the ambient air moisture. They can change on an hourly basis, but I'm talking about the actually wood moisture. And it's in the green where it needs to be. So the moisture levels down there are where they should be and are fine. Couple ducts, a little bit of insulation is just kind of unraveling. It just needs to be kind of pushed and retaped, that's all. So this caught my attention. This is a terrible shot, but this is underneath the kitchen sink. So if I zoom in, this is a history of a leak. It's not showing water now, but it does show the damage. This is the rim joist. This is probably my biggest uh-oh of the house. This is that side band, and that's my screwdriver, and you can see it's punching a hole into it. So definitely want to call that out. Recommend having someone look at that. It's not moving, the house isn't dropping down in that spot, but this is more at resale. If you don't take care of it now, someone else is going to see it. I want you to do something about it. Going back around, everything looked good. I do have an improperly terminated wiring against the wall here. This is the outer wall, kind of across from the front porch, which looks like that. So you need to put the wire in the junction box like we talked about earlier. And then this is that little crawl space under the bathroom. Everything looked fine down there. So I'm fine underneath. This is underneath the actual rear deck. I can see some wood stains, a little bit of, it's moist. In other words, the water is absorbing wood. It's not compromised, but some of the surface area of the wood, if I probe it, like basically stab it with my screwdriver or scrape at it, doing a back and forth chewing motion, it kind of digs in a little bit. So at some point, the wood's gonna turn to decay because it's just what wood does. But it looks fine now, so just keep an eye on it. And that, so far, is my last shot.
Awesome. Termite.
It looked good. Do look for the 5 common wood-destroying insects in North Carolina. People seem to only care about termites, but for 4 of his friends. It looks to be a clean bill of health. The closest thing I found to any type of termites was under that damage that I just showed you in the kitchen. There's kind of these little striations here, and that almost looks like termite damage. But when I look around at the foundation walls on the inside and outside, I do not see any signs of termite tubes or old termite tube residue. So I'm from my perspective, I'm giving it a clean bill of health.
Okay.
So that will be fine.
That's great to hear.
And then the radon monitor is sitting in the living room, and it does have to sit for a minimum of 48 hours, but the longer the better, but the minimum of 2 days. So we'll come back later this week and grab that, and then send you and them both an email with those documents. I'm not anticipating the results being high because I have done testing out here, but if it is higher than I like to see, I'll make sure I get on the phone with them and you as well to make sure you got my email, didn't lose it or anything like that.
Excellent.
So mostly wear and tear, maintenance like I mentioned. Really getting the rim joist under the sink looked at is probably my priority. Everything else is manageable. So for the age of the home, I'm actually kind of pleased.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris.
Of course.
And he has not done the well yet. That's why he didn't bring it up. He's about to head out to do that, and we'll get all of the his findings for the well in the report, and then he's going to take the water for the sample test. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a great day.